don't give a fuck.
Are you sure?
I just don't give a fuck.
Presenting The Art of Not Giving a Fuck with Garrett Zan.
All right, hey folks, this is Garrett Zan with The Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and welcome to another episode of the Victim to Adventurer podcast. Today we've got an awesome guest, Zan Perrion. Did I say that correctly? Zan Perrion.
That's perfect, yeah.
Awesome. Cool, so welcome to the show, Zan.
Well, thank you.
And how this all came about is I had a couple clients that came from, well, I have quite a few clients that end up coming my way through sort of failed attempts at the pickup scene. But a lot of those guys held you in high regard even after having run the gauntlet of a lot of the stuff that's out there. And I know there's a wide range of things, some of which I appreciate and some of which is, I think, to be avoided. But this came about by those guys suggesting that I get in touch with you. And then they mentioned quite a few things in our Undoing forum about your work, your book, and some of their experiences talking with you. So I figured it'd be fun to have you on the show and share some of your experiences going from the more victimized mindset into the life of an adventurer, which is obviously what you're living.
I'm glad to be here.
Right on, man. So you're now in Bucharest. When I looked you up online, it says you're based out of British Columbia, also a beautiful place. So what happened in between there? How did you end up in Romania?
Well, I'm born in Canada, in Western Canada, and I lived in British Columbia for, the first 30 years of my life. And then I hit the road about 12 years ago, 11 years ago, something like that. I basically sold my apartment, gave all my possessions away, and I downsized to a carry-on suitcase, and I started traveling. And I have lived in Montreal and Colombia for a bit, where you are. I've been everywhere in the last 10 years, from Africa to Japan to Panama, and so I've been essentially really roving the earth, camping in some places, staying some place for weeks, some places for a couple months, and going back every few months to see my family in Vancouver. But for the last 3 years, I've been mostly based out of Bucharest, Romania. And my partner and I, Hans, were invited about 4 years ago to come to Romania by a student of ours. And we said, Romania? What's in Romania? Let's go check it out. So we came here and we loved it. So he lives here and I live here. Essentially, even though I still travel, I'm pretty much based here.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering now how that began, because you said you grew up in British Columbia, so that was the first 30 years of your life, and then suddenly you sold your apartment, sold all your possessions, and took off. Now, that doesn't sound so strange to me, but I know that sounds really difficult and really strange to a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for me it was like, I had a corporate job. Well, I have a long story, believe me.
Go for it.
I don't want to, clog it up here too much. But I grew up in the forest of northern British Columbia, and without really running water, or electricity, and I had a very simple life, and we didn't have much money, or and I don't have much education, and I always thought I would stay in the forest. But when I became 19 years old, when I first came out and started to occupy the cities of the world, which is really about when I was 19 or so, I was completely amazed and in love with women my whole life. And so I embarked upon a journey of trying to understand my role with women. But because I grew up in the North and I didn't go to college, for instance, I didn't have any of the social understanding that other people might have.
Sure.
So I was kind of like clueless and insecure and needy and all kinds of things. And because I had no education, I had to fake my way into the corporate world, and to a point where I was a senior executive at a major Western Canadian company, and I could still be there, I was in charge of the IT department. I taught myself computers, programming, all that kind of stuff. I'm a computer nerd.
Hmm.
I took stockbrokers training, and so I was in charge of all the hedging strategies and the futures and commodities of the company. And so, and I had a an office and a secretary, and I was right next to the president. I was his assistant, and I would still be there, except that I realized that it just wasn't my spirit. And so, like I said, 10, 12 years ago, I looked around and I said, this isn't me. I mean, I'm a kid that was used to sneaking through the forest,
Hmm.
with nothing, and that freedom and that magical adventure of it all. And now I'm sitting, 60 hours a week in boardrooms and talking about subjects I care nothing about, except for the paycheck that it brings. And I thought, nah, it's not me. So I like I said, I sold my possessions, or I gave my possessions away. I didn't sell anything. I just gave it all away. Called all my ex-girlfriends and said, come get whatever you want, stereos, whatever. And I bailed out, and I went and I hit the road, and I gave 2 months notice to my company that I work for. They were shocked, and I was shocked, and I was mortified and thought, what did I do? But I've been traveling ever since, and I don't advocate that kind of a lifestyle for people. I don't say that everybody should quit their job as an accountant or whatever and go do that. But for me, it was true to my nature. My nature is in wearing moccasins and sneaking through the forest, and I've returned to that virtually. Even though I'm in the cities of the world, I still feel like I'm just sneaking through the forest now again. It's my nature to be that.
Yeah, I love that you say that. That's I remember as a kid, Indiana Jones was a huge influence on me, and I remember after having seen the movie, running around in my backyard in Minnesota, just thick, tall grass and mud and wet, and mucking around out there and yelling the theme song. And I'm not sure that I ever left that behind either. And
Well,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
propels, that keeps going, that adventure right under the surface. And once you're aware of it, I'm not sure that it's very easy to turn away or to forget
Yeah,
about it.
exactly. And it's in my blood. I mean, I went back up to the north where I'm from with my brothers a while ago. We did a little bit of a sojourn up there and looked around, the swamp we used to swim in, and, the place we used to be. And talking to the people up there, it's in your blood. It never goes away. I haven't been back up to the north in years, and yet it's just the sound of and the smells it's still in my blood. So for me, I have to honor that. Like, I love the concept of simplicity and the freedom to accept all invitations. For instance, you're in Colombia, and if you said, listen, uh, we're doing this in such and such event or whatever in Colombia, we'd like you to come. The first thing I do is look at my calendar. Yeah, I don't think, well, is that good financially? Is that good? Is it secure? I don't even think of that kind of stuff. I think I have to accept all invitations because this is how I want to move through life. So, yeah, and it gives you that freedom to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's excellent. And part of my work doing the online business I do is driven by the desire just to connect with other people that have that same bold spirit. Part of
Yeah,
the joy of it is just meeting clients who are on that edge and helping them step over people that
that's great.
are right there ready to go.
And everybody wants that kind of a message. I talked to a friend of mine who I've known for many years, and he uh, he was like an uneducated bum like me way back in the day, but now he's one of the genius, and he's one of the senior guys at Microsoft. And I happened to be talking to him, and he said, I've got this beautiful house, and I've got all this money, and yet I have no passion. I have no lifeblood in me and so it doesn't matter all these things we chase if we don't have a life of relevance. We seek it, or we're desperate for it.
Yeah, I saw a
So,
study lately about how it was about buying things versus buying experiences, and
yeah.
that the experiences that we buy or that we invest in, however that works, end up growing in value over time in our minds, in our brains.
Hmm.
Every time we recall them, it gains more sort of positive glow. And then, but the things that we buy over time, they lose that glow as they sit around in the house, and they become part of the background.
Yeah.
Some folks have like a whole garage and attic and basement full of background, that's just
Exactly.
sitting there. And, some guys I've met have had trouble just even moving across town because they feel the burden of all their things and don't even want to do it. And then they end up sitting there, I guess, forever until something happens.
Yeah, and just waiting for something to happen, living a life of reaction.
Yeah, exactly. Now that brings up a really interesting point. I was thinking about your idea of accepting all invitations, and I thought about that last night too. And then I had another guest on lately, a guy named Robert Scheinfeld, and I asked him this question. It was, do you have any volition? And by that I mean, this drive on some level. Now I'm seeing it as something different than passion. So hopefully let's just unpack that and see what's in there. So the idea of accepting all invitations, that's kind of saying yes to life and allowing the adventure to take you. But that's different from sitting at home and waiting for life to do something. You know what I mean? So how do we differentiate between that?
Rephrase that question.
Okay. So let's go back to part one of it. Let's say, let's talk about volition. Do you have any volition in your passion? I mean, are you projecting goals into the future, or are you doing?
Yeah, and I trust in the stream of life to guide me. I relax into it, and I say, okay, I know what I want. And if you ask me, where are you going to be in 3 months? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I have no idea where I'm going to be on this earth in 3 months. A lot can change in 3 months. And I don't think that way. I don't kind of plan ahead that way. But at the same, so it sounds like, and if you listen to the surface of what I'm saying, it sounds like I'm careless, or not, you're not careful about the future. Or not thinking, but I'm the most focused guy I know. I wake up every single day. If I wake up even at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm thinking, okay, this is what I want. How I'm going to get there, I have no clue. I have no idea how I'm going to get there. I mean, the foggiest idea, but I know what I want. And I ask myself every day, what is it that you want? What is it? What are you trying to? What drives you? And what do you want your life to be? And what do you want to present to the world? And I think about that. I may not have answers for that, but I sure asked the great question about it. So I am very focused on where I'm going, and I'm driven completely, and I'm excited every day. And yet I completely trust. The German poet Goethe said, "Do not hurry, do not rest." And it's like a motto for me. Don't hurry and don't rest. Just, and there's a lot in that to me.
Yeah, that's a beautiful quote. It reminds me of a Walt Whitman quote that the wise man neither rushes toward nor avoids death.
Perfect. Yeah. Exactly right.
So one thing I'm really curious about here then is how you went from that clueless, insecure, needy 19-year-old coming into the city to where you are now, to where you feel confident, you're able to speak clearly and easily and meet whoever you'd like and sort of surf around and do what you wish. How did you make that transition? What was that like?
I've done something that most men have never done and most men will never do. And that is, I 100% devoted my life, my energies, since I was 19, to trying to understand the dynamic of men and women and my role they're in. I wanted to understand my role of women, and I wanted to understand the hearts and minds of women. And I, all those years ago, I set out to become a student of women. And I did that to the exclusion of almost everything else. I mean, like I remember there's lots of stories where when I was in Vancouver way back in the day, some friends of mine say, listen, we're going to take a couple of weeks, we're going to get a fishing boat, we're going to go off the coast of Vancouver Island, and we're going to go out there and fish, we're going to go beards and pull nets, and it's going to be a great adventure. And I'm like, yeah, I want to go, this is fantastic. And then my next thought would be, well, wait a minute, there's no women out there. And I wouldn't go. And so, like, I've always moved everything I've arranged in my life is to be in the company and the energy of women. And in all my failings and all my rejections and all my, missteps that I took over the years with women, I never lost my great admiration, desire to understand it. And so I've been one of the greatest students of women, certainly than any man I know. And so if I have anything to say to people now, 30 years later, it's not because I have taken a bunch of programs or I've become some kind of a coach or I'm some kind of a guru, or it's not because of any of those things at all. In fact, I've never read a single book on relationships in my life. And that's my whole subject for 30 years.
Sure.
I've never read anything about men and women. Like I'm okay, you're okay, The Secret, any of those things. Power of Now, none of this stuff. I've never read any of those things. And not because I don't think there's value in them, but because my thoughts stray elsewhere and I want to understand something else, I guess. And so all of the stuff that I've ever taken or that I present to men and to women comes from two places. Number one, experiences. And I have a wealth of experience. I've done my 10,000 hours for sure. And number two, from listening and asking and being massively curious about women. I want to know. As a man, I want to know. I want to understand. And so if I have anything to say to men today, it's because I've listened to women for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I'm a great translator. I have nothing really original that I'm saying. Women, men will come up to me after a talk and say, wow, it was so profound. Women will come up to me after the talk and say, we've been saying this for years. But the men don't hear it from women. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm a fantastic translator, and I stole all my stuff from women. And I present it to men in a way they go, what? Wow, we never heard of this in our lives before. This is fantastic.
So what's a guy who's physically attractive? I've got a bunch of these clients, and I'm helping them out. I've had pretty good success with them, but there's a few guys still where they're just super attractive. I asked my partner, I said, look at this guy. What do you think? She's like, man, that guy's totally hot. And the guys are afraid to go out. If they do go out, it's with friends, and if there's new people there, they don't talk to them. And so there's some kind of they at least feel the appearance of a block between them and women, between them and strangers, and sometimes between them and their friends, I would imagine. So, what would you say to that guy? Like, what's his first step?
Well, he's just starting out. Is that what you're trying to say? Like,
well, let's say like these guys are. I mean, they're not like
okay,
completely idiotic in public, but they're just inside. They're having a hurricane of doubt and fear of rejection.
Well, the thing I would say to them is that hurricane is never going to go away. Like, you're always going to have this sense that you're always going to have the still small voice in the back of your mind saying, oh, you better be safe. She probably has a boyfriend. You can look like an idiot to those people who are watching, all these things. And that's not going to go away. And someone who really captures your heart is always going to make you nervous. It's just the way it is. And yet you use that as a signal that this is a great opportunity for you to move forward and to act anyway. I mean, Woody Allen said that 80% of success is just showing up. And the problem with modern man, our entire generation, is we don't show up at all. Mm-hmm. We don't. I can tell you how many times I've talked to women and say, I wear a little dress, I go out, and the men are standing around with their beards over there. And the guys are wishing for a girlfriend. But boy, they've been hurt and they've felt that sting of rejection and it hurts. And so they look for some kind of confidence building from programs, books, affirmations, or beer. Yeah. And so they can get their confidence enough to go up and talk to the girl and hope that they don't look like too much of an idiot. And it's endemic. It's everywhere.
Yeah, you see that. I mean, I don't really enjoy most bar scenes unless there's some kind of specific purpose or situation happening that's been more cultivated creatively than that. But usually that's the lowest common denominator experience available out there, is that go out
Yeah.
and drink the alcohol till you get up the courage, and then see if you can engage somehow, regardless of how fumbling it is.
Yeah, so my what I say to the men is you're always going to have that little sting of getting out of your comfort zone, which is a good thing, and to just show up anyway, act anyway, and to go up to a girl and say, you know, I'm a little nervous, but you look so beautiful in this dress or whatever. But I had to come say something, even though I have nothing to say. It's it's a powerful thing to do, and I don't know. Like the problem is that we wish, we go out with our buddies, we drink a beer, we go back home, and we wish we had a girlfriend. And a lot of it, you know, is a fear of rejection, but also on the flip side, there's a lot of it is the fear of success.
Yeah.
Because what if the girl does like me? What if I do approach this girl and say hi to her and she likes me and wants to see me? Now I have to be interesting and dynamic. Now I have to I comb my hair now and then because this girl likes me, and now I have to stop playing World of Warcraft on the weekends because the girl wants to see me. And so there's a lot of that where guys say, I really want a girl, I want a girlfriend in my life, but they haven't really examined it. Do you really want that? And so, you know, there's all kinds of reasons that things don't connect and come together.
Yeah, that relates also to business and to travel. I know, like we were talking about some different places in Colombia here, and one of those places is Santa Marta. We just decided I didn't know much about it at all, and we just decided let's just show up there. And then once you show up, there's just this unfolding of really infinite opportunities to experience any level of adventure you want. But like you said, showing up. So that's really exemplary of that quote. When you show up in a new city, especially not having pre-programmed a bunch of stuff there, and then be out and see what's actually going on. And then suddenly, man, I mean, the people you meet and the situations that can occur are just so amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Unbelievable. And I think that with people too, actually, some of the people I've met, there is at least one thing I've noticed when guys get in touch with their body, and that's one of the things we focus on heavily with the Art of Not Giving a Fuck and Radical Undoing, is that the body is where you start and end your searches.
Right.
So that you have a frame of reference, a particular point of perception, and then everything can be based, like you said, on your direct experience, which is far more primary than all the other secondhand stories, books, language. You know, those are two completely separate worlds.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's nice to bring them closer together, and I think that's the role of the adventurer. When you accept yourself and then just start exploring whatever the hell this giant, mysterious, awesome thing is that we're all floating around in.
Yeah, and the role of the adventurer, like I said, doesn't mean you're traveling the Earth or going to the North Pole or, you know, going out to sea in ships.
Sure.
But it does mean that you could be growing a garden and have 3 kids, but it does mean that you have the spirit of adventure and danger and scoundrel in your soul. It's a necessary thing. This is why women are dating us, going, well, it's okay, I'll marry the guy, he's a nice guy, but they have no real fundamental desire or craving. They're dating guys who are great daters, great sensitive guys who know how to massage a woman, but you know, because they read a bunch of books, you know, but they don't really get her inflamed and get her really think, like, including the husbands and, you know, this kind of stuff of their wives. And so I wrote a whole book about this our lack of seduction and why seduction has been you know, relegated to a bad word. But seduction is what we're missing in our marriages, in our relationships, in our lives, in our careers, everything. We don't feel seduced about anything, which is the volition you talked about.
Right. Yeah. Well, and seduction is a lot different than a lot of the trickery and things that pass for seduction. It's sad that the word's been sort of mucked up that way, but the concept itself, I think, holds strong. And
yeah.
I mean, we all love to be seduced by various things in our lives. I mean, even, you know, some ice cream or a brownie in a window of a beautiful shop in Bogota or whatever it is that calls your attention. Some flowers or a scent. And then when it comes to men and women, people think it's extremely complicated, and then they make it complicated with all those systems and all those things. That's one of the main things these guys have been saying to me, is that it's such a relief when I just told them, hey, there's nothing you have to live up to. You can let go of all those courses. Just delete your hard drive right now and watch what happens. And they do that, and they suddenly feel a rush of confidence that's natural and organic, that was being blocked by all these this maze of programs and tricks and things they thought they had to live up to.
Exactly correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so it ends up serving kind of an opposite purpose.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But we see that in the spiritual type stuff too. You see people getting hung up on huge amounts of vocabulary, fantasy ideas, and imagery, but then when it comes to direct experience, their life doesn't really match up with that mystery and wonder where it really can.
Which is the only thing to sit in, is the mystery and be curious and be excited about. If you're not curious about your future and about your role in life, then what's the point?
Right. I mean, yeah, if you're reading a book and you're halfway through and it's not entertaining you, I think it's time to try another one.
That's for sure. Sunk cost.
Yeah, see if there's another storyline that might be fun to dive into.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I always liked the choose your own adventure books too. As a kid, I grew up just at that right moment when those were popular.
That's cool.
Before video games had come out. And so yeah, those were another thing that was it gave me a good juxtaposition between this drab, boring life at school versus this life in my mind, and then that kind of bled out into nature and in the neighborhood and all that. So there was the adventure was there, and it was obvious, and it was because of those weird things, movies and books, choose your own adventure, just corny little books. But that put the reader in charge, just give you a little sense that you get a choice, and you can run with it.
It's great.
Now, do you think growing up in the woods had some relationship to your life as an adventurer? Because I know in Minnesota, almost everyone I'd meet, even hitchhiking around the state, regardless of their political ideas, opinions, and views on things, there was some commonality there, and what found it to be was the lakes and the forest, because that was something everyone there did and engaged in whatever way they did, but everyone kind of had that as a mutual interest. And I found that we did so much camping that I was broken to the life of work. I couldn't understand why spend 2 days in the woods feeling awesome and then 5 days feeling like crap waiting to get back to the woods.
Yeah, I certainly think that it is certainly part of the what keeps me looking at the horizon over there, what's over there, and that wilderness adventure, I guess, and some people are born of the land. I mean, and you can never really leave it. When I was in South Africa, and I talked to people who owned hotels and lived in Cape Town, but there's still something about their spirit, which is it comes from the dirt of their country. You can feel it, and there's a practicality and a world kind of a wisdom in the men I talk to. Even if they live in the cities, they still have this sensibility about the land, which in a lot of other places we don't have that. So I think it's definitely informing. I mean, I could either live in the heart of a city, which I love, the energy of a city, the music and the people and the energy flowing in the streets, or the heart of the wilderness where there's nothing. Suburbia is it breaks my heart, and anything that's even close to it, I just can't abide. Even small towns, I'm not interested in at all. The forest, yeah. A cabin by the lake, yeah. Kerosene lamp, yeah. But right?
Yeah, for sure.
But not small town living, or I still need I need one of the extremes.
Yeah, I feel you there. I've done some small town living that was okay, but it just gets kind of weird. And you're better in the city or way out in the country. At least I am, and it sounds like you are too.
Yeah.
But it's at least something to explore if you've never experienced the other side. If you're just a city person or just living out in the wild, it could be nice to go check
absolutely.
out the other side of the spectrum. That's something I really love about Colombia, and maybe you enjoyed that too, is that the insanely wild wilderness is right up against a lot of the cities. I mean, and there's transit anywhere you want to go, all the way down to motorcycles, down a dirt road to the beach. So, yeah, I mean,
It has the feel that the North had for me. Like you can have a town, and in other cities and towns, there's stretches of land that's as you leave the city or the town, it just there's other villages and stuff like that. But in the North, and in what I experienced in Colombia too, was it's like at any minute, this force is going to engulf this place. It's
yeah.
like it's right on the edges. And in Colombia, everything smells like perfume. The flowers and the trees everywhere. And Bogota is a little higher, I think, than Medellin, where I was, right? Higher
Just a
altitude.
little, yeah.
But in Medellin, it's like springtime year round, and there's a perfume smell in the air. But it's so lush that you feel like it's going to overtake the city.
Well, in fact, that's interesting because they use, you might know in Bogota and some of the cities here, some of the criminal underground uses those giant angel's trumpet flowers, the
Yeah.
datura flowers, to make scopolamine, and then they'll use that as a drug to make a person like lose control of themselves. So a person will go empty their bank account and go help them
Yeah.
carry out their furniture and all this. So there is that like I think that's fascinating that
Wow.
plant has that effect here.
I've heard of it. Like that happened to some Americans when I was down there. They,
Oh wow.
they picked up a couple girls, and they thought we got it made. And these are big bodybuilder type guys.
Huh.
And they took them back to their apartment. They were there for a week. Took them back to their apartment, and the girls were all meek and timid. And the guys and they started to play around with the girls a little bit. And the girls had this powder, whatever it was, on their breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And when the guys were in there like motorboating or whatever the heck they were doing, they told me, said it was, I talked to them after. They said we sat back on the couch and they cleaned out our whole apartment, took all the time they wanted, took all our iPads, phones, wallets, everything, all the money, and we pointed and we told them where it was, and we just sat back and watched them do it. And we were conscious, but we just like, yeah, okay, what else do you need?
Jeez,
And it's
yeah.
effective. And they had, it wasn't dropped in their drink. It was like, it was on the girls themselves.
Oh man, yeah. There's a million ways of delivering it. They were doing it in hand lotion on the streets, like giving demonstrations and stuff. It's
Wow.
yeah, you hear different versions of it all the time. But that edge that's here, that's something that I didn't notice. When I lived in the U.S. I mean, a little in L.A., San Francisco, but not that sort of serious danger and then intensity and adventure kind of edge going on here. And I think it adds to the experience. I mean, I've been much more aware in a wake here than I was when I first arrived.
Yeah, there's a bit of a menace in the air. It's for sure. It's a beautiful, beautiful country, but you kind of you could feel like you really have to have your wits about you.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. It's a nice challenge and something to really feel. And again, yeah, I'm not encouraging everyone to just run out and run to Colombia all on your own, but definitely worth looking into if you feel it.
Yeah, it's cool.
So one of these practical questions, Marcel actually wanted me to ask you was, how did you start the traveling? Like, how did you transition in terms of money, in terms of finances, from the corporate work to this life of travel? Like, how are you affording traveling around? And I know travel can be extremely cheap and free sometimes. I've done it too, but I know you've done a little more luxurious travel than that as well. So.
Well, yeah, like I don't couch surf, but
Sure.
I also don't stay in 5-star hotels.
Right.
And we've got a network of friends all over the world now too. That if I happen to say I'm going to San Francisco, somebody's going to pick me up at the airport, just volunteer and say, hey, we're excited you're coming. What can I do? Just because of the nature of, we've got an Emirati network of men. We call them the Emirati. And but even that, I do my dues. I pay I rent modest apartment, for instance, in Romania,
Mm-hmm.
and it's relatively cheap compared to, say, the United States, and so it's shocking how little you actually need to live in the world. It's shocking how little you need when you have no possessions. It's because of all of our stuff that we have to work so hard.
Yeah.
Because the TV breaks. Now I got to get a new TV. The something else needs repairing, and so we can budget all we want. We can say I'm going to allow myself $150 a month for entertainment and $80 for my phone bill and blah blah blah, but then something breaks, or your buddy says, listen, we're going to Las Vegas for the weekend, you've got to come, and now you go onto your credit card and go off your budget, right? And the best laid plans go astray, and so yeah, I mean, like it's because of all these things that we have to have such a. If you're just living in a modest apartment, like in Bucharest, for instance, you could rent something for 300 euros a month, and occasional airplane tickets, which in Europe again are quite cheap. You don't need much. Eat basic food. So, having said that, I mean, like I do, as you know, I do my seminars and I do my coaching, and I've been doing that for years. So. And I do, and I'm not a workaholic. I know guys that are like, working with 17 web pages and doing podcasts like you, and blogging every day. And I don't blog, and I don't do this kind of stuff. I'm too fundamentally lazy. But I think a lot, and I talk to people a lot, and I like to stand up in front of people and talk, and I like to share ideas with people sitting around the table, and coach guys 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 or whatever. I like doing that, and share the things I've learned. And so it's a modest living, and it's not going to make anybody rich, but it allows the freedom to just drift and wander. Like I was invited to go to Sweden to speak to a women's group, so I go to Sweden, and it's the kind of people might think I'm living like some kind of a rock star and like making a bunch of money. I'm not at all, and.
Well, it's funny you say that, because even a lot of rock stars aren't making a lot of money from what I know.
That's true. Yeah. That is true.
And some of them working really hard out there too. I mean, those tours have got to be a beating. But yeah, man.
So that's my thing, man.
That's cool. So I mean, were you doing the coaching before you left the corporate job?
Kind of like coincided at the same time. I took a flyer and said, you know what? I'd been writing some articles. This is way back at the beginning of the seduction community. I've been writing articles, and knew all the guys like Neil Strauss and Mystery and all those guys. And before it got big, before Neil's book came out, The Game. And I just, I spoke at a few places, and I did a couple small workshops just for kind of fun, and it really hit a nerve. And I thought, wow, well, like I want to explore this more. And so it kind of, I said, so it coincided with me, like, which I've been thinking about doing anyway, but I quit basically into nothing, and then I scrabbled to try and make myself into some kind of a living thereafter.
Excellent. And you kind of did that on the road while traveling, right?
Yeah. But like I said, when you divest yourself of home and hearth, when you have no home and you have no possessions, there's things that you take for granted that you always have to pay, like electricity bill, that you don't have to think about. And if you're on the road, and you can pay, $20 a night at a private room in, I don't know, like in Colombia, for instance. You paid, I think, $20 a night for a private room, beautiful private room.
You might even be able to find less than that on the beach somewhere. Yeah, there's all kinds of options.
Yeah, and so you don't have to worry about, okay, I've got to pay my damage deposit, and I've got to pay my electricity and my phone bill. For years, I went to Nicaragua 4 years ago, and I lived basically in the forest again. I lived in the jungle for a bunch of months, and by the sea, and it was a small fishing village. Nobody spoke any English. Electricity was there like once a week, and I basically sat there working on my book every day with the sun goes down at 8 o'clock and there's nothing to do because there's no real lights, so you sleep, and I had that simplicity of lifestyle again in Nicaragua, and I had no possessions, just a t-shirt and a pair of shorts and the writing desk I had. And so there's all kinds of variations. I mean, like some people might want to travel in style and luxury, but I kind of like living simple.
Yeah. No, I do too. I like being on the ground, finding out what's going on in the spot, and
Me
not
too.
having
Yeah.
to book too far ahead of time. And explore from there and let it happen. Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful life, man. And I think it is more available than most people think. I know that some of the guys I know back home in Minnesota, I see them every winter. They're just complaining about how difficult it is. I know it is. It's insane, but it's also beautiful in its own right. But I always mention, well, if you want to just move, there's so many places, even just other small towns in the U.S. that you could explore. And a lot of times they just get really upset if I point out that it could happen really fast. And I don't say it's easy, because I know that there can be a mental sort of meltdown that has to take place sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But post meltdown, you'll see the prison wasn't as solid as it ever seemed. So the pain is more in the anticipation, I think. The anticipation of how much it's going to hurt to get rid of your stuff or to change your ways, than how it actually feels in the real life experience. At least for me, that's true. That the anticipation of suffering and pain is way worse and controls a person way more than actual pain.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, it's like when you give something away, you have that twinge of, I may need this, but once it's gone from your possession, you never think about it again.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you said.
Actually, we had last year in Desert Hot Springs, my partner and I went out there just to be out in the desert and rent a space and enjoy that in the wintertime in Southern California. And we had a huge luggage rack with all this winter gear that I had and all this wilderness gear and all this stuff. And we just thought, well, let's leave it on the car for the month. And a few days before we left, I went to the grocery store right during the day, 2 p.m. I went in for 10 minutes, bought some tea, came back out, and the entire luggage rack was gone.
Wow.
It must have taken 3 guys to lift that thing off there, lift it off the car and put it into something else.
Run down the road.
Yeah, it was during the day, and I was just like, what in the hell happened here? And I thought their faces must have been great when they opened it up and saw like 15 below zero winter boots and thick jacket in the middle of the desert in the winter, and it's 80 degrees out.
That's beautiful.
But then we had a much lighter trip, and I realized, God, we wouldn't even have made it with all that stuff back to where we were headed. So reality just kind of relieved me of those things.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
It's kind of nice when it happens that way, because then I don't have to sit. And when you go through things one by one, it's like there are these ghost magnets, and they can suck you down into memory holes and all that when you're going through things,
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, that can be fun in its own right.
Yeah, but like I said, like the whole point is that my advice is to guys not to go out and, quit your job and run away from your relationship and go travel the world. But it was true to my nature. And that's the most honest expression of who I am. Somebody else their honest expression might be to be a CEO and an entrepreneur and a builder of empires.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Richard Branson seems like he fits that position pretty well,
Yeah, exactly.
He flows with it. Yeah. I mean, so whatever makes sense for you that's always what we teach here too. So what does a guy do to find out about that nature, to access it, to really, I know what my answer would be, but I want to hear what you would tell someone. So there's a guy who's feeling stuck, which is pretty typical. And, how does that guy get in touch with that part of himself, the kid playing in the sandbox or the Matchbox cars or whatever whatever it is?
Well, boy, yeah, that's a big question. I mean, because, the problem is, when I went to Nicaragua and I came away from there, and I lived with the people there, I lived in a small village, like I said, and the people had nothing. And I mean nothing. And some of the poorest people I've seen, but they're most joyous and the most generous and the most gracious and the most delighted and smiling people. And I came away from there, and I went straight from that 4 months in Nicaragua, and I went to Amsterdam to do a big major event, a big seminar. And I came there, and the culture shock of it was, here's all these affluent doctors and students and various business guys, and they're sitting there, saying, I need to understand something about my life. And I'm thinking, man, my answer is this. What I'm trying to say is this, Garrett, is that everybody has a self-help book or two. Everybody's like taken a workshop or two. Everybody's done some kind of training and program in this day and age. And 10 years ago when I was doing it, it was kind of a new thing, but now everybody's taking something, some weekend intensive or something.
Yeah.
And yet everyone's still walking around scratching their head going, okay, well, everybody's got a bookshelf full of self-help books. Business and entrepreneur and self-help books are the number one books out there. And everybody's got these ones. And they're reading these and consuming as fast as they can. Everybody's updating their Facebook status with a little image and a nice quote from Einstein or whatever on it. You've got all these floating around. And yet, it's not enough. And so my message to you guys, especially after Nicaragua, I came to Amsterdam, my message was extremely strong. And I said, we say we want change, but if we really want change in life, we really want transformation, we really want a life of adventure that we say we want, it's not enough to just do another self-help book or to take another program. It's not enough or to memorize some affirmations. It's going to take everything you've got and more. Everything you've got and more. And the sentence that came to me in Nicaragua, and I put it in my book, and I said it, and I've been saying it ever since, is this: every great life has had in it a great renunciation. There's no other way. And yet, we've got this spoon-fed drive-by self-help industry today, which is giving a lot of comfort to people. I've got the answer right there in that book I bought. The answer's right there on my shelf. But nobody really makes the fundamental changes they need to do, or very few do, and really go on a vision quest and go and slam themselves into the earth and find out what they're made of. And the few that do that will come forward and say, will have some their eyes will be open, and they will have a strong way moving forward. So my message to men is strong, and I know that most won't heed it, and they'll nod their heads and take notes and say, yeah, this is fantastic, yeah, I want this too. But that fear will hold them back, and the hesitancy will hold them back. But I keep hammering the same thing. And so to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I say stronger things than most people will say, I think. And because I really do believe that there's no other way.
Yeah, great renunciation. It makes total sense. And looking at any great figures in history, you see that. Very clearly.
Yeah, there was a YouTube video just came out. It was CBS, I think it was, has a series that they do called Notes to My Younger Self. And they had one, and the guy should look it up on YouTube. Who's listening to this, look at it, because it's out there, with Hugh Hefner. He's 88 years old, and he's got this 5-minute video, and it's notes to himself, what he wrote to himself at 88, what he would wish he would have known. And it's brilliant what he says to himself. And two themes that stick out in my mind from what he said. He said, number one, I always had to fundamentally reinvent myself completely at different stages of my life. Completely. Reinvent everything about myself. It wasn't small increments. It wasn't like a learning and then something else you add, and then a little bit of understanding, and then an opening here, and a weekend visiting over there. He said I had to take moments in my life where I fundamentally reinvented myself completely from scratch. And that stuck out as the theme. And the other thing he said was, I never, in all these years, never lost my abiding and fundamental delight and adoration for the female spirit in all these years. And he's seen every type of woman you can possibly imagine. There's guys out there saying, oh, women are this, women are that, women don't treat me nice. He's seen all that too. And yet he's never lost his fundamental delight for the greatness of the female spirit. And he calls a forth in them. So it's something that people should watch. But the concept in there is reinvention. You have to reinvent yourself into the way if you're doing something you don't love, you have to stop doing it. The only thing, we say, well, I have to save up this money first, or I first have to do that, first I have to finish this, or I put all this money into this education and I really should follow it through. And the whole point is, the only thing we have to do in this entire life, the only thing we have to do is die. Everything else is optional. And so, I mean, my message is strong, Garrett. I mean, because I wish I would have heard it when I was young. Yeah. And I was like floating through, and and insecure and trying to figure out my roles of life and following the golden path and trying to get a better car and a better car after that and a nicer TV and a bigger couch and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I would have known that what I know now, so I say it's strong.
Yeah, I think it's worth a try, and the thing I think a lot of guys fail to realize too is that if you leave your town and you leave everything behind and all this, or you leave even the ways you used to look at the world behind and try something new for a couple days, anything, that those old ways will still be there if you want to pick them back up. It's not like
of course,
it's not going to go anywhere. The town will be there most likely. Everything you can step back in if you want, but the funny thing is usually they don't want to. It's just that they needed that little crush to get out of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one thing, that's I've been toying with that same thing. I can see what the transition is, and I can really feel it. I can feel where in a person where they're at on this transition. But it's always been a struggle trying to communicate it. Like, what is especially with marketing, what is the message to put out there? Because there's so many different angles. And the one that I've finally gotten it down to lately is that's where we got the victim to adventurer. And then most recently I thought, God, there's something missing there because there's still, you can identify the victim inside, just simple. Anytime there's complaining and upset and things, you can find it. And then the adventure is there too. It's pretty obvious. You feel excited, fun, driven. You don't know what the outcome will be, and that's okay. But now I conceived of as the spy. The spy is who can make the transition, and it just takes a seed being planted in a guy's head. So the spy is there. Everybody knows what a spy is. We've all loved those movies. It's a super cool thing you can relate to. But that seems to be the character that can make the transition. The one inside your head. Nobody else has to see it. No one knows what's going on. There's no system to it. But the spy is never defeated by his circumstances. The spy can use anything in the circumstances at any time to further his mission. In this case, which is enjoyment and fun or excitement, whatever it is you really want. That's the engine of the journey. So
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, so the spy, that makes sense to me. And then I tell the guys, watch that show Burn Notice. He's teaching you how to think about life, how to think about your possessions, how to think about your family, because he connects deeply with people and everything, but it's in a different way. It's in a really authentic and powerful way.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a nice one to use.
I like that. I'm writing this down, Burn Notice. I'm going to watch that. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. It was the exploration of the relationship. I think you'll really like the main character and the woman. It's just beautiful, just beautiful.
Okay,
She's an IRA explosives expert and demolitions expert, and he's like a burned CIA spy, and they're lovers.
It's great.
Fun times.
Okay, good.
Well, cool, man. Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up here? I know you wanted to mention, or I wanted to mention your book, so we'll put links up where guys can get that. But tell me just a little bit about it, The Alabaster Girl. What is this all about?
Well, I wrote this book. It took me 10 years to write it, exactly birthday to birthday, and it's a book about, what I tried to capture in that book is the spirit of men who have women in their lives. Not guys who can go get phone numbers, not guys who are good conversationalists, not guys who are good looking or models or rich, but guys who just fundamentally women adore them and want to take care of them until their dying day. And so I tried to capture what is the difference between those men and other men. And I wrote a book about the heart of women called The Alabaster Girl, and it's actually a book written to women. It's not even written to men. I started writing a book to men, but over the years it transferred into, it's a book written to women, about women. And guys can listen in on that conversation. So it's a bit of a tricky book, and that's why it took me so hard a time to write it. It's kind of like the movie Inception with 3 different layers. I'll just quickly say it starts with a man and a woman on a train. And she's there to interview him because he wrote a book called The Alabaster Girl. That's kind of the book within the book. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a book called The Alabaster Girl, which was his recollection of his memories, his experience, his impressions of a life in the company and arms of women. So he wrote this very poetic book about his memories. And she's there because he wrote the book and she came to interview him about it. And so the one layer of the book is, she says, well, I want to know, you wrote this book. I want to know the things you didn't say in the book. And he said, you really want to know everything? She said, yes. And he says, well, I'm captured on the train here with her. So why not? For the first time in his life, he tells everything. So the first layer is the conversation between the two on the train. The second layer is his monologue, his brain dump to women. I'm going to tell you, women, why you respond to me and you don't respond to the men. I'm going to just tell you the whole thing. And interspersed between all that is sections of the fictional book he wrote called The Alabaster Girl. So 3 layers.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah. So
That
it
sounds
was
like a
another-
lot of fun. Yeah, I think I'd like to read that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was a very difficult thing to write structurally, but everything I would say that everything that I've been trying to say all these years, the good and the bad, like if I would have put a book out, 8 years ago, something like that, it would have been a cool book and guys say, oh, this is a great book, I learned a lot. And it would make me look good. But I had to have a book of honesty and have all the good and the bad in it, and the questions and the mystery and the answers. So it's more a book of questions than it is answers, actually. So yeah, it was not easy. It starts out where this guy on the train is saying very confident, absolute things because he's seen some things in his life. He's an expert with women, and so the beginning of the book is him saying this great confidence, just confident things with surety. And then it goes to chaos towards the end of the book where he's asking bigger questions that he's trying to understand for himself. So, which is what we talk about today.
Yeah, that's excellent. And it reminds me of one of the central concepts we talk about here a lot, which is 100% juice, which we refer to as 100% self-acceptance. Meaning that whenever that gets off, then bring that back up and everything else will get easier. Everything else will be okay. It reminds me of what you said. The character in your book reminds me of that film Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. There's just a culminating moment when he falls down the steps, and Bill Murray says, "Yeah, I said those things. I did those things. I can live with that."
That's great. Exactly.
And he gets up. Yeah.
All the good and the bad. I mean, like it wasn't all good. I mean, there was some hurts, and and it's all in there. It's all in the book. And it came from my experiences, but it's a fictional book. It's a novel, even though it's a novel without any real characters and without any plot or story. It's still set apart from me, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I like the design of it too. I just looked at a couple of the images of the text. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it was definitely a work of a labor of love on my part, and it took me years, but it's almost like I had to vomit it out of my system, and now I'm like, whoa. But it's out there now, so yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope
good.
you guys read it, enjoy it, and send me comments and put reviews on Amazon and get in the conversation because yeah.
Yeah, guys. So as always, check out the links, and some of them we've got here are Perrion.com, arsamarada.com, and then I've got the Amazon link. We'll just put that right up along with the episode here. So wherever you're listening, you'll be able to see those links and check out the book, check out Zan's website, and it's been great talking with you, man. I'm really happy to have you on the air.
It's been great. Yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot.
And I've got a feeling we'll meet up sometime here or there or somewhere else. And
I expect so, yeah.
Yeah, and when we do, I think we'll put something really fun together. So I look forward to that. I have no idea what it'll be, but I have a feeling.
You bet, Garrett. That's great.
Cool, man. Well, great to meet you again, and thanks so much for coming on. And
thanks for having me on your show. It's been a nice and thought-provoking conversation, which is good.
Excellent. Yeah, and to you as well. All right, folks, enjoy.
Thank you for listening to the Art of Not Giving a Fuck podcast. For more info, visit artofnotgivingafuck.com or radicalanddating.com.